Question number 1. Everybody starts with Arduino. I like my Arduino. Well, I started with STM. You can kind of figure out that I'm some kind of psychopath. In which app you're drawing the object diagram? Well, that's not an app, that's a browser-based tool. It's called Draw.io, and you can use it to build all sorts of cool diagrams which actually look pretty professional. Thanks for understanding that not everyone is a newbie and doesn't need binary explain. Yeah, that's exactly what caused a bit of controversy in this video. This video is not for pure beginners. This video is for people who kind of stepped over that beginner curve and are now trying to do some more advanced things. I do this because I feel like there's a lack of tutorials that cover exactly that kind of learning curve. If you want to learn something from the ground up, there's already enough tutorials for that. I don't need to do another one. It's a great software. But for beginners, I think Arduino IDE is better just because it is more simple to use, right? Right. That's exactly what kind of fits to the last statement I gave. If you're starting out and you're using Arduino, please keep on using Arduino, it's okay. But if you want to move to other platforms and combine a lot of features together in one single tool, you can head over to PlatformIO. This is remarkably simple. I thought you'd need to get one of those extra serial debugger modules to do this. I wonder how many other devices you can do something similar with. Keep in mind with this video, this AVR debugger thing, that's more or less bit banging. That's not something that's like really robust in a big project. If you have the money to spare, I would suggest you could buy a JTAG debug probe. These come in at I think $500, which is a lot. But they are worth it, because with those you can debug on multiple platforms. Did it still not working in Linux free VS Code? VS Code is always free. I don't know what Linux has to do with this. It should work on that platform as well, I've tried it out. The issue you might be facing is that a COM port doesn't exist on the Linux. It's called something like TTY, I'll have it up on the screen. It's not COM, that's a Windows thing. So basically, the only reason why it's not working might be because you've selected a serial port that doesn't exist on a Linux device. Adding MySQL database connectivity to project. PlatformIO started complaining over non-compilable libraries. Loading the same project in Arduino IDE, compiling was no problem at all. So how is that for awkward? Well, how is that for providing you with absolutely no additional information in which I could help you with? Saying a library doesn't compile and then just leaving is what people on Stack Overflow would like to burn you at the stake for. While I do own a hardware debugger, this is an easy way to debug for smaller projects. For a very complicated project, I wouldn't choose AVR stuff. That's exactly what I said before. Keep it simple with this AVR stuff. If your project is more complicated, then chances are high you are either an experienced hobby developer or you're working somewhere where you actually get paid for programming. And in both of these cases, I think you'd have access to better debugging probes anyway. So it's kind of a discussion about money and experience, and that will come. I was a little surprised that my old boss insisted that I do all my code development using the Arduino software. Funny that you mentioned that, because the exact same thing brought me into PlatformIO. My old boss told me, okay, we need an embedded project, a kind of newbie processor with newbie code. That was okay since I was a newbie then. And he said, hey, don't use Arduino IDE. That's gonna cause you all sorts of mental breakdowns. Use PlatformIO for VS Code. And since then, I've known about PlatformIO. Goodbye, Shake. I do realize that DeepL exists, and it has existed for a few years now, but I'm still too lazy to chuck this in. Because who might have guessed that people with an accent talking English are most likely not fluent in Russian when the accent is not Russian. They are either fluent in English or their native language. So, sorry man. Just use Arduino IDE 2.0. Okay, why not? Try it out, do it. I'm just comfortable with having PlatformIO combine all of the features that I already need and that I've known it for a while. If I wanted to do Arduino stuff and now had to switch to another IDE again, that wouldn't make any sense to me. It might make sense to you. If you've never done PlatformIO, stay away from it. But if you've worked with PlatformIO and you are interested in building more platforms than just Atmel and Espressif, then the chances are high that you will have some kind of profit from PlatformIO. Today you gave up Arduino, and tomorrow you will betray your parents And Homeland. Didn't know programming microcontrollers was like a war movie. 2 issues you have not mentioned when migrating from original IDE. The porting of existing Arduino projects. I use VS Code with Arduino plugin. Better than original Arduino IDE, but no issues like with PlatformIO. First of all, I didn't know that there was an Arduino plugin for VS Code. Might have to check that out actually. Okay, the thing with porting. Kind of have to admit that it's not the job of PlatformIO to port your Arduino projects. It's nice of them that they have this feature, and it should work if they claim to have this feature, and I know that sometimes it doesn't, but that's not an aspect I would get so concerned about. Maybe if you want to migrate to a different IDE, you finish your projects in the old IDE and you start coding with the new IDE to have kind of a hard cut. I know that's not the best for people, but I kind of can't blame PlatformIO developers for not doing this the right way. So basically, you'll lose, still manually write the CPP code for the Arduino and then upload it, but you just add a lot of complexity to how it is configured and managed. Perhaps interesting if you work with multiple platforms, but if you are a die-hard Arduino user, and this is overkill. As stated in the previous comment, yes it is. The thing is, when you've done like 5 to 10 Arduino projects, you quickly run into limits that wouldn't be there on other platforms, which would cause you maybe to migrate to another platform. And then PlatformIO is here for you. That's the thing I'm getting at here with all this move to PlatformIO stuff. It gives you the options to work on a lot more different platforms as opposed to just Arduino, because that's just one singular platform and it's not able to do everything you might need. It's an ant, not an alien. Oh shit. Originating with the author Ivan Kravitz and his work with Smart Ant Hill. Oh, I actually thought it was an alien. Arduino IDE is easy to use, as is debugging. The debugging is as good as you write it to be. Skill issue. Have you ever heard of multi-threading, stack tracing, assembly code, live updating registers? You don't get these things that easily with serial.print. And if you do, you spend way too much time in your project on your debugging driver than the actual code itself. Just use the features that people have already built for you. That's how humanity works. We stack wisdom on top of each other and therefore expand. It's too complicated and bloated for an editor just for a simple microcontroller. The worst you're not mentioning is sometimes it works, sometimes you just have fiddling around just to make the same project work again, just because you edit your code. Understandable. I've had my fair share of troubles with PlatformIO. It's not perfect and it's not finished. The thing with these is, as soon as you migrate to any other high-level IDE that is not the Arduino IDE, you will find similar issues. That's just because you've got more little levers to flick and dials to turn, which can cause all sorts of compatibility errors. So that's not a thing that goes away. It's best to try to understand the errors an IDE is giving you and to debug the IDE itself. That is sadly necessary, but that is something developers all over the world are constantly confronted with. Not writing code, but fixing something that is actually not their fault. It's Microsoft, so no thanks. Not entirely true. PlatformIO is not by Microsoft. VS Code is. However, you could try out VS Codium, which is under the MIT license and is the base build for VS Code that Microsoft uses to build their app. It technically still belongs to them. If they ever should revoke that license, then it will become proprietary, and then we have a problem. Still, you can integrate PlatformIO with other IDEs as well. So PlatformIO at least is not at fault here. PlatformIO sucks. Overly bloated solution for basic microcontroller programming. The Arduino IDE V2 kicks it out the door. Yes, it is overly bloated for basic microcontroller programming. The thing is, maybe people will want to do advanced microcontroller programming. And then suddenly all of this bloatedness becomes useful somewhere because it's a feature you might need in your advanced code. I have tried PlatformIO on and off for over a year, and I have to say it is a mixed bag. It is a mixed bag. It has a lot of advantages and disadvantages, and it's perfectly summed up in this little comment here. That's why it has 30 upvotes, because this person is obviously intelligent, has used it, saw its flaws, but also saw how useful it can be. So I really appreciate this comment. See you next time when we try to uncringe object-oriented programming.